So, Ron took matters into his own hands. He talked his way into the hospital's medical library to study endocrinology and how the mind might affect the body. Ron soon made one of his most important discoveries.
Thought was boss. Thought was king. Thought could change structure, but matter could not really change matter. But thought could change matter. Isn't this fascinating? You could vary somebody's weight by changing his thinkingness. If you could do that, then what did we study? Did we study more structure to make man well? Change his behavior pattern? Follow it through? Did we go on studying the brain? No. No, never. Never. It would only be thought.
With this fundamental truth established, and applying to himself the principles he had found, Ron cured himself of his injuries and restored his eyesight. This achievement was nothing short of miraculous, since according to his physicians, his injuries had been permanent. Upon his discharge from Oak Knoll, and still working double time, Ron soon placed his name back up in lights as a writer of fiction and screenplays. And with the profits from his writings, he crisscrossed America, auditing hundreds of people from all walks of life. Accident victims, actors, businessmen, even criminals and inmates of a mental institution. By 1948, he had even begun to teach others to deliver his processes, and formed the first co-audit team. And as case after case dramatically recovered, there was no doubt that he was on the right track with the technology he called Dianetics. When at last his research was complete and ready for public release, Ron generously offered his discoveries to both the American Psychiatric and American Medical Associations. That these establishment organizations rejected Ron's offer is not surprising. After all, how could doctors and psychiatrists maintain their monopoly on healthcare when an easily applied technology brought results that all their years of university training could not achieve? Moreover, how could they continue to command million-dollar government grants to study the mind when a man with no funding had solved the problem? So, the establishment did not accept Ron's offer. Instead, they replied that if his work amounted to anything, they would hear about it in a few years. And hear about it they did. Immediately upon its release on the 9th of May, Dianetics became a monumental bestseller, and the name L. Ron Hubbard was everywhere. The books were selling out faster than they could be printed. There were packed auditoriums wherever Ron lectured. 750 Dianetics groups sprang up, and 250,000 Book One auditors were running engrams from coast to coast. And unbeknownst to all, until 1978, thousands began attaining the state of clear. But if the vast majority of those who read Dianetics were overwhelmingly enthusiastic, there were a few who were not at all pleased. Deep within the U.S. government lay a coalition of psychiatrists and intelligence officers who had a great deal to lose. For not only did Dianetics enjoy a popularity that no psychiatric text had ever achieved, but almost anyone could read and apply it. And there was something else these government psychiatrists found disturbing. Dianetics was about to undermine their plans to control the way people think. It was that all-consuming fear that led to the first assault. According to government documents, the earliest covert operation against Ron's work was mounted to the formation of the first Dianetics Research Foundation in August of 1950. Utilizing a classic FBI tactic, infiltrators began to spread rumors that nearly tore the foundation apart. At the center of the disturbance was the foundation medical director, Dr. Joseph Winter. Although supposedly a loyal supporter of Ron's work, Winter soon began spreading the word that if Dianetics was to flourish, it would have to be altered to become a tool of psychiatry. He even advocated the use of drugs in auditing sessions, and incited the Dianetic Foundation to pass a board resolution forbidding Ron to research past lives. In short, this was the worst possible perversion of the tech: Black Dianetics. Ron's response was swift and conclusive. He not only demanded and received Winter's immediate resignation, but publicly condemned the man as the first squirrel. Yet Winter was not the only one examining the ways in which drugs could affect the mind. Through the course of his research in the summer of 1950, Ron had glimpsed the tip of a very dark conspiracy. Known as the Mind Control Program, it was conducted by high-ranking psychiatrists within military and intelligence circles. That Ron had uncovered this experimentation was bad enough, but when he began to publicly condemn it for what it was, pain drug hypnosis, or PDH, alarm bells sounded throughout the secret corridors of psychiatric power.
That's how you make a slave society. That's what George Orwell was writing about in 1984 in his famous novel. It's that sort of thing which brings about a slave condition. The unknown hanging over people. Unknown accidents or incidents, unknown occurrences. Something did happen, they should know, they don't know, and they are suddenly driven by hidden impulses they cannot explain.
With Ron's public disclosure of the secret government PDH programs, the assault against Dianetics soon escalated beyond just a battle of words. Asleep in his Los Angeles apartment on the 1951, Ron was attacked by two assailants who attempted to stick a hypodermic needle in his chest to simulate a heart attack. Although the attackers fled before Ron could identify them, this much was evident. He was no longer facing merely a handful of jealous psychiatrists. He was now the target of a full-scale intelligence operation. The following night, Saturday the 24th, Ron was on his way to the Foundation when two thugs emerged from a dark alley not far from the Shrine Auditorium. To help convince him to enter a waiting car, one of them pulled out a .45 caliber automatic pistol. Ron described what happened next in one of his lectures.
I rescued a woman who had been electric shocked half to death and was so drugged she couldn't even open up her eyes. They had tried to get her to swear out a warrant to get me committed. An airplane was ticking over at an airport. This is incredible stuff. An airplane was ticking over at an airport to pick me up and fly me to St. Louis, put me in a spin bin where I would never be heard of again. Interesting. The two boys who were sent to pick me up and so forth, unfortunately, had not been as well trained in the science of combat as myself. That's right. We speak once in a while of pistol whipping. Well, there's where the pistol whipping occurred. I wasn't pistol whipped. I said, this is just too confounded thick. I don't know who my friends are. I don't know who my enemies are. I don't know anything about anything. All I know is I want to get the book I'm writing on finished. So I just withdrew from the whole scene.
Seeking a distraction-free environment to write up his most recent discoveries, Ron flew to pre-Castro Havana in March. Here, in a peaceful villa overlooking the waterfront, he completed Science of Survival. Science of Survival was published in Wichita, Kansas, where shortly after the book's release, Ron also opened the first Hubbard College. And Wichita was further the site of one of Ron's milestone breakthroughs, the uncovering of the first conclusive proof that man was a spirit. It was this fundamental discovery that led to the development of Scientology. While Ron was busy researching the fundamental principles of Scientology, including whole-track recall and the use of the E-meter, yet another covert operation was underway to destroy the subject. A wealthy Wichita oil man named Don Purcell launched a complex legal maneuver to gain control of the Dianetics copyrights. Although apparently just a slick con man, a mysterious $50,000 deposited in Purcell's bank account revealed he was actually acting at government behest. The ploy worked. Running up phony debts while Ron was busy lecturing and auditing elsewhere, Purcell threw the foundation into bankruptcy and purchased Dianetics, lock, stock, and barrel, for $6,000.